The Shuttered Shrine, the road to Yomitsum village, was a scar through the mountains, a narrow ribbon of gravel that seemed to resent every step. Tucked in a forgotten crease of Japan's Chubu region, the hamlet clung to existence like a dying man's breath. Its thatched roof houses sagged under the weight of centuries, their timbers blackened by time and neglect. The air was thick, heavy with the scent of cedar and something older, sharper, like the memory of blood. The villagers, scarce and stooped, moved with the caution of those who knew their home was not entirely their own. They spoke in whispers of the Kayabuki Shrine, a crumbling relic hidden deep within the forest. Its name a curse they dared not utter after dark. Elias Kane had found Yomitsum on a niche travel forum, buried in a thread about Japan's abandoned places. A British photographer with a hunger for the obscure, he'd built his career on capturing decorusted asylums in Eastern Europe, sunken ships off the coast of Namibia, ghost towns swallowed by desert sands. At 32, wiry and restless, with dark hair perpetually falling into his eyes, Elias saw the world through the lens of his Nikon Z9. It was his shield, his way of taming chaos, of pinning the intangible to a frame. The rumors about Kayabuki intrigued him, a Shinto shrine, abandoned for a century, said to house a kami that did not rest. The villagers' warning scrawled in broken English on the forum only fueled his obsession. No pictures, one post read, "The shrine sees you." He arrived in Yomitsum on a grey October afternoon, the sky bruised with clouds. The village's only ryokan, a creaking inn with paper-thin walls, smelled of damp wood and incense. The owner, an old woman named Hannah with eyes like polished obsidian, watched him unpack his gear with undisguised unease. "Why the shrine?" she asked, her voice low, her fingers clutching a string of prayer beads. "Nothing good there, only shadows." Elias offered a disarming smile. "I'm just a photographer. I capture what's left behind." But her gaze lingered on his camera, as if it were a weapon. "No pictures," she said, echoing the forum's warning. "The kami do not sleep." He laughed it off, chalking it up to rural superstition. He'd faced worse bandits in Yemen, collapsing roofs in Pripyat. A ghost story didn't scare him. Still, as he lay in his futon that night, the silence of the village pressed against him, unbroken by crickets or wind. It was as if Yomitsum held its breath, waiting. The next morning, he set out for the shrine. The path wound through a cedar forest so dense it seemed to swallow light. The trees were ancient, their trunks gnarled and twisted, their branches forming a canopy that blocked the sun. No birds sang, no leaves rustled. The air grew colder with every step, and Elias's breath fogged despite the autumn warmth. His camera, slung around his neck, felt heavier than usual, the strap biting into his skin. He ignored the unease creeping up his spine and focused on the path, overgrown with moss and roots that seemed to shift underfoot, as if urging him to turn back. The shrine emerged from the mist like a spectre. Its torii gate loomed, blackened and peeling, the red lacquer long eroded by time. Stone lanterns flanked the path, their hollows filled with dead leaves and something darker streaks of what looked like rust but smelled faintly of iron. The main hall was a sagging structure of dark wood, its roof tiles missing in patches, exposing beams that gleamed like bones. Elias raised his camera, the shutters click echoing unnaturally in the stillness. He checked the display and frowned. The image was blurred, as if something had moved in the frame. But nothing had. He adjusted the settings, took another shot. Same result. A faint prickle of unease ran down his neck, but he pressed on, stepping over the threshold into the shrine's inner sanctum. The air inside was thick with mildew and that same iron temps, sharp enough to sting his throat. Dust motes hung in the dim light filtering through cracked shoshi screens. At the far end stood a wooden altar, adorned with faded ofuda charms and a single bronze mirror, its surface tarnished but oddly reflective. Behind it, a narrow staircase descended into darkness. Elias's pulse quickened. Basements were rare in traditional Japanese shrines, especially ones this old. His flashlight beam revealed stone steps, slick with moisture, vanishing into a void. He hesitated, the silence pressing against his eardrums. Then, camera in hand, he descended. The chamber below was a crypt, its walls carved with intricate symbols, spirals eyes, jagged lines that seemed to writhe in the flickering light. The air was colder here, damp and heavy, like breathing through wet cloth. At the center stood a stone slab, its surface stained a deep, unnatural red. Chains, rusted but intact, dangled from its edges, their links engraved with kanji. Elias couldn't read. His flashlight caught something else, a faint glint in the corner. He approached and found an old camera, a boxy relic from the early 20th century. Its lens clouded but intact. It was out of place, an anachronism in this ancient place. He reached for it, then stopped. The air shifted, a subtle pressure, like eyes watching from the dark. He raised his Nikon instead, snapping a photo of the slab. The display flickered, and his breath caught. The image showed a figure, translucent silhouette crouched atop the slab, its face obscured by long matted hair. Elias spun, sweeping the flashlight across the chamber. Empty. His heart hammered as he deleted the image, his fingers trembling. He took another shot. The figure was there again, closer now, its head tilted as if staring directly into the lens. A low hum, like the drone of a distant engine, began to vibrate through the walls. The flashlight flickered, plunging the chamber into darkness for a split second. When it steadied, the air felt crowded, as if unseen presences pressed against him. A whisper, soft and guttural, slithered through the silence. Mighty Uru. He didn't speak Japanese, but he understood. I see you. Elias bolted up the stairs, the shrine's walls seeming to pulse as he fled. The hum followed, growing louder, seeping into his bones. His camera buzzed in his hands, the shutter firing on its own. Click, 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 filling the memory card with images he didn't dare review. Branches snagged at his clothes as he ran through the forest, the path twisting in ways it hadn't before. The trees leaned inward, their shadows stretching like fingers. He didn't stop until he reached the village, breathless and shaking, his clothes damp with sweat. Hannah was waiting at the ryokan, her eyes cold. You took pictures, she said, not a question. You woke it. Elias tried to explain the blurred images, the figure, the whisper, but his words felt hollow, inadequate. She didn't respond, only gestured for him to follow her inside. The other villagers, gathered in the ryokan's common room, stared at him with a mix of pity and fear. An old man, his face creased like crumpled paper, spoke in halting English. The shrine is not empty. It never was. That night, Elias couldn't sleep. The camera sat on the table, its lens glinting like an unblinking eye. He tried to transfer the photos to his laptop, but the files were corrupted static and distorted shapes, like screams frozen in pixels. Except one. A single image had survived, showing the shrine's altar, the bronze mirror reflecting not the room but a face. Pale, eyeless, its mouth stretched into a grotesque smile. Ilya slammed the laptop shut, his hands shaking. He wanted to leave, but the next bus wouldn't come until morning. The hum from the forest was louder now, seeping through the walls, vibrating in his chest. At midnight, Hannah knocked. She carried a lacquered box, its surface etched with the same symbols from the crypt. You must return it, she said, her voice low. The camera, it's hers. Ilyas's stomach churned as she told him the story. A century ago, the Kayabuki shrine was no place of worship, but a site of sacrifice. Every 100 years a priestess was chosen, chained to the stone slab, her soul offered to appease a nameless kami. The ritual bound the entity, kept it dormant. But in 1923, the last priestess, a young woman named Kiyomi, escaped, interrupting the ceremony. Her curse lingered, her soul trapped in a camera left behind by a foreign surveyor, who de-stumbled upon the shrine. Anyone who used it became her prey, their soul captured in its lens, their body a vessel for her return. Elias laughed, a hollow sound. That's absurd. It's just a camera. But the hum was deafening now, and the air in the room felt alive, pressing against his skin. The villagers' faces flashed in his mind, fearful, resigned, as if they'd seen this before. Hannah thrust the box at him. Bury it at the shrine, before dawn, or she takes you instead. He didn't believe her, not fully, but the weight of the camera, the whispers in the dark, the face in the mirror, they gnawed at him. At 3 a.m., he grabbed the camera and the box and headed back into the forest. The path was different now, narrower, the trees closer, their branches clawing at the sky. The shrine loomed larger, its timbers creaking like a living thing. Elias placed the camera in the box, sealed it, and buried it beneath the Toria gate, his hands stained with cold earth. The hum stopped. The forest fell silent. He returned to the village at dawn, exhausted but relieved. The ryokan was empty, Hannah and the others gone. The bus arrived, and Elias left Yomitsum, vowing never to return. Back in London, he tried to forget, throwing himself into new projects, but something was wrong. His new camera, a Canon he'd bought to replace the Nikon, began to act strangely. The shutter fired without warning, capturing images of places he'd never been: dark forests, stone slabs, a bronze mirror. In every photo, a faint figure lingered, its eyeless face growing clearer with each shot. Weeks passed, and the disturbances grew. His apartment felt wrong, the air heavy with that same rusted iron scent. Shadows moved in his peripheral vision, vanishing when he turned. At night, he woke to the sound of his camera clicking in the dark. The room freezing, the air thick. He'd find it on the display, showing a live feed of his own room. But he wasn't alone. A figure stood over his bed, its eyeless sockets locked onto him. The whisper came again, not from the camera but from inside his skull. Desperate, Elias contacted a colleague in Tokyo, a folklorist named Iko, who specialized in rural legends. He sent her the photos, the ones that hadn't corrupted. Her reply was curt: "Destroy the camera, leave Japan, don't come back." When he pressed for details, she told him the rest of the story. Kiyomi, the escaped priestess, hadn't just cursed the camera, she'd cursed the shrine itself, binding her soul to it, ensuring the ritual would continue, with or without her. The kami she was meant to appease was no benevolent spirit but a devourer, a thing that fed on souls trapped in the camera's lens. Each photo taken was a step closer to completing the ritual, to giving Kiyomi a new vessel. Elias didn't believe in curses, but he couldn't deny the evidence. He smashed the cannon, burned the memory cards, and booked a flight to Iceland, hoping distance would break the connection. For a while, it seemed to work. The whispers stopped, the shadows retreated. But then, in Reykjavik, he bought a new camera, a cheap point-and-shoot, just to get back to work. The first photo he took was of a glacier, stark and beautiful. When he checked the display, the ice was gone. In its place was the shrine, the altar, the chains, and the figure, clearer than ever, its eyeless face, smiling. The twist came months later, when Elias's photos surfaced online, posted from his own accounts. They showed him at the shrine, kneeling at the altar, chained to the slab. His face was wrong, pale, eyeless, his mouth stretched into that grotesque smile. But Elias had never posed for those photos. His friends, alarmed, called the police, who found his apartment empty, his camera still clicking, filling with images of a ritual that never happened or hadn't yet. In Yomitsum, the villagers whispered of a new priestess, one who wore a foreigner's face, her soul bound to a shrine that no longer slept. The camera was never found. But in the Chubu region, hikers began reporting a strange hum in the cedar forest, a sound that followed them home. Their phones filled with photos. They didn't take images of a shrine, a mirror, a figure with no eyes. Some tried to delete them, others tried to run, none escaped. The forest never forgets. If you find an old camera in the woods, its lens clouded with age, do not pick it up. Do not look through the viewfinder, because she sees you. And once she does, no box, no grave can hold her.